Something that is a point of contention for a lot of people when they're reading the Bible is, how could God possibly ask Abraham to sacrifice his only son if he's a good God? I've actually gotten a couple comments about this in the past, and I've never really made a response to it. So I was thinking about this for another video that I was thinking of doing. All of this just like flooded into my spirit, and whatever the Holy Spirit is breathing life to in the moment, that's what I want to share with you guys. People get really upset about this story, and I understand. It is challenging. But the more you get to know God, the less challenging it is. If you read Abraham's story in Genesis, it is very clear that Abraham has a good relationship with God. He talks to God, God talks to him back. God does miracles in his life. He has prospered him. So we know that Abraham knows God. We know that Abraham trusts God because he's willing to act upon the things that God tells him, like sowing seed during famine, being willing to say to Lot, you pick which land you want, I will take whatever you don't take, because he knows that God's going to prosper him and bless him. No matter what kind of land he has, God will make it flourish. Even Isaac's very existence was God's promise being fulfilled in Abraham's life. So Abraham is no stranger to the promises of God at this moment, and Abraham knows the God that he serves intimately. They have conversations with each other. One of my favorite conversations between God and Abraham is when God is talking to Abraham about how he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And what you see is God actually is listening to Abraham and taking what Abraham says into account into his decision-making process. A lot of people don't get this about God. He cares what you have to say. You are important to him. He does this with Moses as well, when I think Moses pleads for the people and God stays his anger because of Moses's pleas for them. God really does value our input. He absolutely wants to hear what you have to say. Another story of this, Jesus' first miracle is turning water into wine, and he does it solely because his mother asks him to. Mary comes to Jesus and is like, they're out of wine, do something. And he's like, what do you want me to do? It's not my time yet. And Mary just tells the servants, do whatever he says. Mary's faith that Jesus would do something prompted him to move when he had no intention of moving. This is the kind of God that we serve. He cares about what you want and cares about what you have to say. So when it comes to this point in the story with Abraham, Abraham already knew that God would bless him, that God would prosper him, that he cared about what he had to say, that he valued his input. Abraham knew that God would keep his promises. Before Abraham was even asked to sacrifice Isaac, God had already given him promises specifically concerning Isaac. Genesis 21:12 says, through Isaac your descendants shall be named. In order for that to come to pass, Isaac had to be alive. The point that Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac, Isaac had not reproduced yet. Abraham knew that God is not a liar. God gave him a promise, and he knew that he intended to keep it. Isaac probably knew all of the promises God had given his father about him specifically as well. Who knows whether Abraham knew that there would be a ram in the thicket or not, but he knew that even if there wasn't, he knew that God's promise to him had to come through Isaac because that's what God had said. And God is not a man that he should lie, and his word does not return to him void. It goes forth and accomplishes everything that it is sent to accomplish. So Abraham and Isaac both went to that altar, fully expecting that if he was sacrificed, God would raise him up again. But why would God do this in the first place, you might ask? To test your faith, to test whether or not you love him more than you love the things that he can give you. Do you actually love God, or do you love the blessings that he gives you? Because if you love the blessing more than him, then you don't love him. If I love someone only for what they can give me, that is not love. That's taking advantage of someone. God is not going to risk another Satan event where he gives you everything and then has you turn against him. This is what the firstborn sacrifice of Abraham and Isaac is all about. And guess what? There was a ram in the thicket for Abraham to sacrifice instead of Isaac. But God was testing Abraham to see if he was willing to go as far as God himself would go. See, God does not ask us to do anything that he was not first willing to do himself. Abraham, are you willing to sacrifice your only son like I sacrificed mine? Because faith understands that whatever you lay down on that altar as a sacrifice to God, he will take it and breathe new life and multiply it back to you. But you first have to be willing. Whoever loses his life for Jesus' sake shall find it. That's what the firstborn sacrifice is about. God is not a liar. He keeps his promises. If you want to learn more, check out JesusMysterySchool.com and like, subscribe, and follow.